Hey Puneet, good morning. I'm Anand here.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Fine, Puneet. So we'll wait for another 3 minutes. Now it's 8 o'clock exact. So we'll wait till 8:03.
All right, sure.
Then
We'll
you can
start.
start off with the session.
Sure, no worries. We'll start in 3 4 minutes then. All right, folks. Good morning. Welcome everyone to the Sunday morning session. How are you all? Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see my screen? Can someone just quickly confirm?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Many of you know me very well. We have had good sessions, right? For many of you, I'm new, isn't it? So let's get started, guys. The session that we are going to have a discussion today is roles in data science. This is one of the interesting discussions we have, right? And I think morning being the perfect time to have this discussion, right? As you always know, I mean, I always prefer having discussions as interactive as it can be. So guys, ask as many questions as you can because this is, I think, the most confusing topics you have in the current scenario, isn't it? All right, let's start it then. Who am I? Many people knows me, but still just want to give you a formal introduction to a lot of you who doesn't know me. My name is Punit Shah. I'm currently working in the capacity of a data science lead for the company called Cinecron. All right. I'm ex Oracle. I worked for around 4.5 years for Oracle, where I've worked with global clients, like global banking clients, especially in the Middle East region, where I've spent approximately 3 years of my time in Middle East. Overall, I have 9+ years of experience in consulting and technology. So I started my journey with simple Java and PHP developer with when I was with Oracle. Then I moved slowly towards the architecture part and the server part and then the data part, and here I am right now. So overall, I carry 9+ years of experience so far. I'm currently working with global banks in US region, the North American region, the APAC region, and the European region, where we are trying to work with those BFSI companies to solve their challenging problems with compliances, with customers onboarding and so forth. So Synechron, if you search it on the Google, you will realize that we are the leading BFSI consulting company. So we only deal with the banking and the insurance clients. So that's what my forte is. In the free time, I mean, that's what my hobby is. So in the free time, I generally take a training. I'm a speaker. So I take training around multiple topics, multiple technologies, multiple domains, starting from Python, ML, AI, deep neural networks, Alteryx, and so forth. And I also do a freelance consulting to a lot of clients across the region, right? So that's what who I am in a nutshell. I have this LinkedIn URL just pasted here if anybody wants to connect. So I'm always open to have a network. I'm open to have connections. We can talk. We can try to see what all collaborations we can do in terms of I always try to see if I can help to whatever extent I know, right? So I can try to help you. I can try to learn from you as well. So anyways, if you want to have a connect, talk with me, just ping me. Okay. Now let's start with the topic that we have in the hand is roles in data science. I mean, I think this is the most confusing, but the most fundamental topic that we need to talk about. Okay. So the agenda for today is I think we will briefly, walk through the journey that I have had it. Okay. And then I can talk about some of the very generic points that you should consider in your mind. And lastly, we will talk very specific about the roles that we have in the industry, such as what is data analyst versus what is business analyst, what is data analytics versus data science. So that confusion, that question, we will answer in a very brief detail. Okay. All right. So educational background, work before getting into the data science. How did you get introduced to data science? So these are the three questions. I'll take it for myself, but I'll also try to answer these questions in a very generic fashion. All right. Not only related to me. The last question, I will answer it as a personal to me, but the rest too, I will try to answer in a very broad fashion. I mean, who are the people who should consider getting into the data science world, or what should be the education that people should have it before they get into the data science, right? As far as I'm concerned, I'm a master degree holder, so I'm a master's in computer application. Okay. I also believe that people who want to get into the data science world should have some programming knowledge experience that is very required. I'm sure people who have taken Basecamp session with me, they know why programming knowledge is required, isn't it? Especially when you're dealing with Python, you're dealing with Java, you're dealing with R. Those are the languages that you should know it. Okay. And only knowing those languages will not help. You should be in a proficient enough, because Python is not a very small language. It's a broad category. It's a broad language. Tomorrow, when you become a data scientist or a junior data scientist also, the time is evolving at such a pace that you will have to cope up with a lot of other technologies as well, such as cloud, because everything we are moving towards the cloud now. Okay. If you do not have a, relatable educational background, I'm not saying that you will not learn it. Of course, you can learn it, but then the learning curve will be very high. Okay. You will have to spend a lot of time learning it, implementing it, experience it. And this is where, companies do not want to invest in you, because if they hire you and if you say you do not know, let's say, for example, cloud, or let's say you do not know Python, okay, but then they will need you to learn it, and that's a long time period. Are you getting my point? You might take 3 months, 4 months, or at least 6 months to learn that, correct? But what is the productivity that you will generate for this 6 months? It's very low, right? But you will still get your salary. So as a company, I do not want to invest in you if you do not have a enough programming language background, or that those lines. A lot of people ask me, do I need to have a strong statistical knowledge, or do I need to have strong mathematical knowledge if I want to get into data science? Tell me honestly, how many of you had this question before you get into this part? I'm sure many of you had it. Be honest, tell me how many of you had this. See, many people will have it. The answer to that question, guys, is you really don't need to be a geek of mathematics, or you really don't need to be a PhD holder of mathematics if you want to dive into data science world. Okay. It's okay if you have a basic knowledge of mathematics. It is okay if you have a basic knowledge of probabilities. What is really important is you should be able to understand the working knowledge of the algorithms. And more importantly, you should have a mindset that you solve the problem. How do you solve the problem is your, you can say, approach. But the ultimate goal, if your attitude, if your approach is that you want to solve the problem for your company, for your client, for your stakeholders, you will have a very long career in the company, guys. You will have a very, very long career. Nobody wants to hire a PhD holder of mathematics because they are not useful for me, right? I want people who can solve the problem. Are you getting my point? So you need to have that balanced educational background, so that you know what is programming. You can easily adopt to different programming language very quickly. You have some mathematical knowledge. I'm not saying very high. It's okay if you have even school level of educational in terms of mathematics or probabilities. Okay. These are the two areas which I always think you should have it. One very, very important element in terms of educational background, or I can say not educational background, but a very soft, you can say, attribute you should have, it is communication. Guys, the moment you don't have a communication, if you can't communicate your learnings, if you can't communicate your findings, you will have no good journey in data science. Let me tell you very bluntly. Okay, because there is a saying, I don't know, people who know me, I have said this before as well. People who are good storytellers can become a really good data scientist. Okay, people who can be a good storytellers can be a good data scientist, and there is a reason behind it. You spend a lot of your time to explore the data. You spend a lot of your time to understand the data. But tell me, what good is it if you can't communicate that to your stakeholders? Tell me, what good is it if you can't really convey the real meaning or the real exploration of your data to anyone? Are you getting my point? So you really need to work, or really need to have a real good communication, and in all three fronts: written, verbal, and spoken. All three communication skills, you should be have it in a very, very good fashion. Okay, so I can't emphasize enough. A lot of time I have come across a candidate in an interview. I mean, the candidate knows everything that I wanted to ask, but he or she can't explain in simple manner. I can't hire, because tomorrow when I will place this candidate in front of client, and if he can't answer the questions, if she can't answer the questions, client will, I mean, within a 2 months, the client will get frustrated. Are you getting my point? You should be really easy. You should be really simple when it comes to communication. Take your time, think before you speak. Okay, and but have it as your forte. Okay, have it as your speciality. So that's the three I think say three features of your educational background in terms of data science journey. One, a good of balanced knowledge of mathematics and probabilities, a good knowledge on programming languages, and a very, very important is a communication skills. Okay. Work before getting into the data science world. Now, if I talk about personally for myself, as I said, I was part of Oracle global consulting team. For 4.5 years, I was purely a developer. I started my journey with PHP, MySQL, then Unix, then I shifted towards Java, then I shifted towards architecture team, then the server team, and then the business team where I got in touch with the data as a service, right? So I had to have this all development experience from my day one, right, in Oracle. People lot of ask me that what is that the background I need to get into the data science. Trust me, guys, there is no hard rule, okay, that you need to be XYZ as a background or XYZ as a designation before you enter into the data science world. Okay, you can come from any background, that's absolutely all right, till the point you are able to understand and explain the concept of mathematics and concept of data science. You should fit absolutely perfect in any cases. Okay, now let me tell you what is the ideal case that you should have it. Okay, let's say tomorrow you're going for an interview, okay? Or let's say you are planning to start the interview process in the next coming weeks or coming months. What is the work that you should have it? I always say you should work on large number of self projects. Okay, you should work on large number of self projects. What I mean by that is pick up any project and work on it. Okay, pick up any project and work on it.
मैं यहाँ से change कर.
Can everybody on mute, please, guys? I'm sorry, but please. All right. The point I was saying is, pick up any interesting topic, go on GitHub, go on Kaggle. You will find interesting problem statement. You can work on your own problem statement and, derive the solutions. Don't worry whether your solution is right or wrong. Okay, derive the solutions. In my Basecamp session, I was saying that you should, think of creating chatbots. You should think of creating maybe any workable solution around regression, classification, and create as many as you can. What you can do about it is you can create these projects and push to the GitHub, push it to the GitHub repositories. Mention these things in your resume. Okay. Don't make a mistake of explaining every project in resume itself. Don't create your resume 10-page long, right? With explaining every project in detail. You don't need to do that. Just mention the header. That's okay. Just mention the header in the resume part. And then when interviewer will look at your resume, he or she will realize that, okay, even if you're a fresher, you have worked on n number of projects. Are you getting my point? And then it becomes a talking point in your interview. They will at least give you an opportunity to explain what you have worked. Is that clear, guys? That's why I say, please work on self-funded project. Please work on your self projects and mention it in your resume. That will really help you. Now let's talk about the last part, like how did you get introduced to data science? If I talk about myself, I was in Dubai and Middle East for 3 years, as I said. There, one of my business owner was a sheikh. Okay, obviously he was my business owner. And I was working for a bank, right? And one of the application that we derived as a Oracle, as a vendor, it was generating huge amount of data. Okay, and this sheikh wanted to explore some of the untapped area. He wanted to explore some of the regions in the world where he can explore his business. Now this I'm talking about back in 2013. Okay, I think around 8 years back. Now 8 years back, there was no a very sophisticated terminology of data science. All right, it was very new in the Western market. It was not very highly introduced to another market or another part of the world. Yes, the terminology was there, but it was only restricted to North American market, or North American region. Then we came up with a strategy that we will analyze the data that we have. Okay, so what we simply started with was we extracted the dump of a data from SQL, that is our production data server, to Excel. Okay, what we simply did was EDA, that's called exploratory data analysis. But again, we were not known to this fancy terminology called EDA. We simply just took the dump into Excel and we try to understand where people are sending money. I mean, who is the huge number of beneficiaries from which country. So it was a remittance project that I was in. So people could send money from Middle East to any part of the world. Because we wanted to explore the untapped area or untapped region where business can grow, we wanted to see which are the people who are highly huge number of customers for my bank who sends money, like workers or maybe third-party laborers, right? So we wanted to understand which area of the world the money is going, or the high number of money transactions are happening. That was a really triggering moment for me, where I understood this is really nice. I like it. Right? Are you getting my point? You're absolutely having a free hand in terms of exploring the data in any dimension that you want, because we don't have a handwritten rules, right? That you should only explore in this area, you should only explore in this area, you should only do this. No, when you sit for an EDA, when you sit for a data analysis, you absolutely have a free hand. The more dimensions you explore, the more better you will get. And I really like that part. And then I decided to see, and then I decided to explore this field more. So I went back home, I opened up Google and I tried to search if this is something called a field as, right? And then I got introduced to a term called data science. And that was exactly the period when Hadoop was introduced. I don't know if you guys even know the Hadoop, but 2012 was the part when Google introduced Hadoop to the open source community. And that actually sorted the bubble of big data. The terminology big data would shoot up in 2012 when Google officially introduced Hadoop to the world, right? And that actually gave birth to a lot of new roles in this industry that you see now. Data analyst, data analytics, data visualization officer, data scientist, data engineer. All this field got into the place once the bubble got, in the bigger size. So that is how I personally went into this industry. Then I started doing some courses. I spent 2.5 years to learn this field because I was new, right? My domain was completely different. The field was not very much matured like you have it now. So it took me 51 interviews to get a job in junior data scientist position before I cracked it. So it was 1.5 year. The reason why I took 51 failed interviews to get a job is because of multiple reasons. The industry was not very much mature, so everybody wanted to hire only PhD. Everybody wanted to hire experienced data scientists. Everybody wanted to hire someone who has MSc from US, but nobody wanted to invest in the learning resource, which is just got into it. But thankfully, one small startup company with only 3 people as employee gave me the opportunity to become what am I today, right? So it was a big shift for me, leaving a global company like Oracle and joining only a 3 people company. But yes, that leap of faith you have to take it. But you can only take it when you believe in yourself and you have a clear vision. So not to praise myself, but this is what the journey I have been into. So it will be interesting. I mean, how you get introduced to data science. I mean, that is what you have to decide. What actually triggered that you get into this world? Because why this is important, I'll tell you. When you go for an interview, a lot of interviewer will try to understand this question from you. Okay. Because they know if you just came here to maybe make some money and not to solve the real problems, they might not give you the chance. Okay. If you give a good story for them to believe, even if it is a fake, doesn't matter. But even if you give a good reason for them to believe the story that you tell, that's you can definitely go in. That's definitely you can go in. But you should tell them a story. Why do you really want to become a data scientist? Because it's, trust me guys, it's not simple. Okay. It's really the position with responsibilities. Even if you start with a junior one, it is difficult position. All right. So always have that story ready whenever you go for an interview. Thank you, Sharani, for those kind words. Thank you so much. Now let's talk about some of my current organization and work experience. All right. So as I said, the company that I work for, Synechron Technologies, is primarily the BFSI consulting company. So we are into existence from last 21 years. It is a New York-based company, basically. So we have the world's top 8 bank out of 10. Okay. So out of 10 world's biggest bank, we have 8 as our client. Okay. And we have long-standing relationship with them. So just trying to give you a depth and the breadth of my company. We have approximately 14,000 employees across the world. And we are primarily into development, server architecture part. We are into consulting. We are into last 4 or 5 years. We are very highly involved into data science and blockchain technologies. Okay. So that's just a brief introduction about my company. Okay, I'm not trying to advertise, but we are really hiring on a big numbers. If anybody is interested, please let me know. But again, there is a requirement of 3 years of experience. So this just wanted to give you a glimpse of it. How it utilizes the data science? Well, that's a good question because there are two fronts we are utilizing the data science as a technology. Okay. There are two drivers to it. One, when we are engaged with client, all right, so let's say bank XYZ, banks ABC, when we engage with them, the first and foremost area is we try to understand their problem and then utilize data science to solve their problem. Okay, that's a one way. What is that way? We first engage with client. When we engage with client, we try to understand what are the problem areas that they want to work. Many people, many companies, many banks have a different problems. Some banks have a problem with client onboarding. Some bank have a problem with their search engines. Some banks have issues with their compliance and so forth. So every bank have their own issues. And there we try to introduce data science as an element, data science as a solution element. Okay. So that's a one way. Second way we utilize the data science part is I lead a team of 12 people here in Pune location and Europe region. So we are a part of innovation center. Okay. So what is innovation center basically does is innovation center is not a part of any client engagement straightforwardly. Yes, we do a lot of client engagement in the background, but the job that we need to do is we need to come up with the solutions which are maybe 2 years in the future. So we want to work on the use cases. We want to work on the problems that might be in the existence now, but that will be surely in the existence in next 2 years. Okay. So we want to solve the problems for future. That's why we call it as an innovation lab. We want to innovate some solutions which are very much going to helpful to all the banking industry. That's what we have been doing it from last couple of years, and we have been very successful with a lot of efforts. We are able to make accelerators. We are able to make solutions way before then it can even start in the industry, and we are able to sell it off as a product, sell it off as a services to a lot of our clients, right? So these are the two ways we utilize data science. So one, with client engagement. Second, with the innovation labs. Current problems you are working on. Well, that's a good question basically. So I'm working on I think 7-8 different projects, and I can tell some of them. One I'm working on is a neural search problem, which is very interesting for me. So I think I did this session for Greatom as well in the back. So one of the bank we work with in the US, they had a problem of how can I convert the plain simple English sentence into an SQL query. Are you getting my point? So I can simply write, show me all customers from Spain who is earning more than 25,000 euros as a salary. That's in plain English statement, right? Or even I can write it in the Russian, or I can even write it in the German language. But I need to convert this sentence into an SQL query because I want to find this data from my original data source. Now, of course, I'm giving you a very simplistic version of it. It is far more complex than what I'm saying, because there are tons of, the project that I'm working on has approximately 600 tables. It is on a different databases. So some of them are in Oracle, some of them are in SQL, MySQL, some of them are in MongoDB. I very my point. So some of them, so many different locations this database are stored. User doesn't know what is the table name. User doesn't know what is a table schema. He or she can only write the simple plain English query, right? So, and as a NLP model, so we are using NLP quite extensively here. So NLP will understand a lot of components out of it, the intention, the entities, the complex relationship between the data, and we use a graph technology as well, something called as Neo4j, and that will help us do a lot of stuff in the background. So yeah, this is one of the problem statement I'm working on. Second problem statement I'm working on is another bank in Europe. Not a bank, actually, it's a compliance organization. It's a regulatory body. So this particular agency wanted to bring the regulatory data across the world in one single portal, right? So in a simple example, if I can give you, let's say you want to build a shopping port. Let's say you want to build a shopping portal, but you do not have your own products. So what you want to do is you want to bring everything that is listed on Amazon, everything that is listed on Myntra, everything listed on Ajio, and so other products. So basically you want to consolidate everything that is mentioned on different sites, different portal into your own website, and then give a user a choice to filter those out. Similarly, you can replicate this concept into a compliance world, because every compliance agency publish new rules, new notices, new you can say reports based on their economy. But this compliance officers has to be large investment banks like JP Morgan or Citibank. Those people need to be really on the up to date information about which country is doing what in terms of economy before they invest millions and billions of dollars into it, right? I hope I'm making some sense. So these people will know this, compliances at their fingertips. We have already made a mobile app for them. So once they log into the mobile app, they can get a very precise information about these rules and publications in a seconds. So they can be on the top of their information. So these are a couple of projects that I am currently working on. Your role in the same. Oh, so I do different roles again. So as a manager, as a lead, I have 12, 13 odd people. Okay, 12, 13 odd people who are reporting to me. They are all at a different level. So some of them are data analysts, some of them are junior data scientists, and some of them are senior data scientists as well. So we combinedly come up with the solutions. We combinedly come up with the strategies. We combinedly come up with the demos and presentations that we want to give. Second role I play very importantly is I do daily the coding part as well, because I love doing coding. That's what I have been doing from so long time. And I really do not want to touch, or really do not want to cut off myself from the coding part. So I do a lot of experimentation in Python. I only work in Python. So I do a lot of coding in Python as well. Thirdly, I explore new tools and technologies, because you really want to be in the game where that there are so many tools available in the market. There are so many services available in the market. So I believe you should not reinvent the wheel. Okay, if somebody has created the wheel, you should use that wheel. You should not reinvent it. So I always try to see if there are any services, products available in the market with either free of cost or either with some cheap cost, and can we utilize it to solve our business problem. So I can cut short on the time, I can cut short on the resources. So that's few things that I do in a day in, day out. I am a learner as well. So currently I'm very much highly involved in cloud technologies. So I'm trying to learn different services of AWS and Azure, especially related to DevOps, because there were many occasions where we wanted to showcase the capability of how we can deploy tons of different machine learning models into the cloud. One of the problem statement I forgot to tell you is I'm working on an automation of model management framework. So how can a user without any knowledge of data science can build different models? How can I compare those different models? Or how can I have an explanation of the models that I have built? So that is the framework that I'm building as a MMF. I call it as model management framework. So I'm exclusively, studying those cloud technologies so that I can explore the potential of it. So this is what I do in day out of my current organization role. There are a few questions I see, which is good to see. Okay. If you're already managing a team which is not a data scientist team and looking for what would be your advice? You cannot manage a team of data scientists unless you have a hands-on experience. Should you downgrade to, I'm sorry, Shalini, but where was the question? If you're already managing a team which is not a data scientist, well, I have a team with a data scientist team. It's a mix and match of both.
No, Punit, my question here was I already have 12 people reporting under me, and it is a quality assurance team. So if I'm looking to transition into a data science role, what should be my exact approach? Should I downgrade to be an individual contributor first to get some hands-on experience and working with data before I can move as a manager to be able to manage a team of data scientists? So I'm looking for a career shift here, Punit.
Well, the short answer is yes, you will have to shift towards the individual contributor in the beginning part, because as you have very well put it up, I'm sorry, any company, no matter if it is a big or small, before they give you a position or before they land you up as a manager in data science, right? It is quite a simple expectations that you might or you should have worked on at least 5-7 number of different projects. And when I say 5-7 different projects, I mean end to end, where client is engaged, where you have actually deployed that particular project into the production area as well. Are you getting my point?
Yeah.
So that is an expectation that any company will have it before they will give you a position of lead or manager. So I think your approach should be one, you should start as a senior member of the team, considering the experience and the exposure you have, right? So you should start with something as a senior consultant or a consultant or at least a data scientist to begin with, right? And then you can prove yourself for a couple of projects for a couple of years that what you can do in terms of technology, what you can do in terms of operations. And you can also prove yourself in terms of people management, right? And I'm sure within a couple of years, 2 3 years, you should have a position as you need for. But yes, in the beginning you'll have to start for the individual contributor.
Yeah, thanks, Bharat. I think that helps.
Guys, everybody can be on mute, please. I mean, I can't emphasize this more. Please, guys, everyone. Prasad says, what is the relation between data science and ML and AI? And is there a path from data science to other and they mutually helpful? Well, Prasad, the question you have asked has too many terminologies into it, but let me tell you, sadly, in the industry today, people use all these terms interchangeably. Okay. People use data science and ML interchangeably. People use ML and AI interchangeably. Sadly, even recruiters uses this word, even interchangeably, which is not correct. Okay. Data science is a very broad terminology, like a very broad, which has too many things involved into it. ML and AI is a sub part of it. AI is the smallest subsection of the entire data science community or data science ecosystem. Okay. So data science is a broader field. ML is a small subset of the data science. AI is a subset of ML. So imagine there is a Venn diagram. Okay. The bigger circle is data science. The smaller circle inside the data science is ML. And there is a smallest circle called AI inside the ML. Okay. So that's the hierarchy if you're looking for. There's a second question. Is there any path from data science to others? Well, I think, I don't know, how should I answer this? If you look at the academia, okay, if you look at the path like the Stanford or MIT or these people teach, they will give you a very specific path about AI. So what is AI? AI is a generalized or a generic field that you want to solve. So having you can say self-driving car is AI, it's not ML. I hope I'm making some sense, Prasad. Self-driving car is AI, it's not ML. Okay. Solving a bank's problem for clients churn or solving a client's problem for identifying default transaction, that's ML, that's not AI. Is it getting clear, Prasad, by any chance? Okay. So you need to understand the difference between ML and AI, and it's not very difficult. Okay. As the name suggests, artificial intelligence. You're trying to put intelligence, which is artificial, into some entity. That's what is an artificial intelligence. ML, instead of it is stands for machine learning, you are asking machine to learn something, to learn or explore the relationships, right? I hope I answered your question in some way, or it's still not unanswered. Chetan says whether working on a project which is mostly related to gather image data for training the deep learning would be any help going forward. Is it just waste of time supporting this kind of project? So Chetan, tell me, are you involved in manually only selecting the images or you are also doing some operations on it? Yeah, so my question is, if you're planning to have some contribution towards the deep neural network that you're planning to use, I would suggest go ahead with it, because collecting data, even gathering the data, is one of the tasks. Okay, and it's really, really important one. Gathering the data is not simple. Okay, it's an important task. But if you tell me that you are not going to work on any operations after that, or if you say you are not going to be a part of process in which these images are going to be consumed, then I would say don't do it. Because you really need to have a vision of end to end, how these images you're going to collect and how these images are going to be consumed. You really need to know that, you really need to be a part of it. Then you can definitely put your efforts, or otherwise you can do that project for yourself. Any which ways you're collecting those images, right? So write your own neural network on it, even if you're not part of the other one. So you will learn a lot of things. Does that make sense, Chetan? Cool. Now let's try to understand why do we need the DS roles first of all. I mean, we know there is a lot of hype around this role, but first of all, we need to understand why do we need it. First, increasing use of internet is generating data at an enormous rate, which is very true, and everybody knows that, right? Especially thanks to social media, Instagram, Facebook, and I don't know what other apps, Twitter. These apps have made the data generation at so huge rate that we as a human, we never anticipated that we can generate the data at so huge rate. Okay. So yes, data is everywhere nowadays, right? But we really need to see if this data is any helpful or it is just a garbage. But in order to determine whether this data is helpful or it is a garbage, you need some rules. You need some people. You need few people with the, you can say, different skill set that can be utilized here. We see a significant rise in the demand for more people in the data science industry. So as I said, I mean, the rate at which the data is getting generated, we need people, we need mechanism, we need framework who can, study this data and tell us, okay, this data can be helpful, this data is not going to be helpful, this data is a garbage. Are you getting my point? So there you will need different people. And of course, the rate at which data is getting generated, you need to match up with that particular rate. So you need a lot of people. Okay, and that is what it is happening in the industry. There are multiple opportunities with different titles. Okay. But the problem is that indistinguishable description of the job. Well, sadly, Indian industries or Indian IT industry have taken this route, and it's very sad to see. But we have the same job description for every role that you will see. So you will see a data science, a description, job description, which will expect you to be, I think, Captain America or something like that. And trust me, it is not, I'm not over exaggerating. Okay. I have seen so many job description for data scientists, and they will literally expect you to be a Captain America, or they will expect you to be an Iron Man, so that you know everything. Okay. You know everything in programming language, everything in mathematics and probabilities, and everything in the cloud as well. Okay. But if you compare the job descriptions that are getting posted in Western market, like especially the US and Canada and the Europe as well, you will see their job descriptions are so many, I mean, so you can say crisp, or you can say so relatable. And I have done this because in one of my seminar in my company, to the HRs and recruiters, I actually gave this experience. Okay. And I can give you that as well. I mean, I am not, I mean, if you think I'm lying, you can do simple thing. You can take a data science job description from Naukri.com for any big company in India, and take a data science job description for any company in US, say Google or Apple or Microsoft, and just compare them, and you will have an absolute simple difference there. Okay. So this is the sad part of indistinguishable description of the job. Okay. But the part is true that we need different people. We need people with different skill set. And it is also true that there are different job roles available. Okay. Balaji says Google expects simple things. It's not only Balaji, Google. If you, and I have done this, you just pick it up Microsoft, you pick it up Google, you pick it up Apple, you pick it up, PayPal. Look at their JD for data scientists and look at their JD for data analyst. And if you come to in India part, I don't want to take anybody's name here, but look at their JD. Okay. It's really confusing. It's really confusing. Do you mean to say that the job in West are less demanding or de-skilled? It's not about demanding, Deepika. I think you misunderstood it. It's not about less demanding or more demanding. It's about expectations. Okay. In India, we do not have a definite job descriptions. So as we do not have a definite job descriptions, what we tend to do is we put everything that we know. We will expect you to know programming, 10 different programming languages. We tend to know different, cloud technologies and all that stuff. It's not about, you can say, demand or not. At the end of the day, both of them are going to do more or less similar job. Okay, but it's just how and what you are expecting out of it. Yes, Shalini, we are going to spend a lot of time on it. Don't worry. Okay. So coming back to the discussion, this makes it difficult to understand the requirement as well as the skill set, which is very true, as Shalini was asking, or it is as the way she asked, like, can you clarify what are the expectations? It becomes very, very difficult for, freshers, or very, very difficult for a newcomers to understand which role should I take it, what to be, what to expect when you go for an interview and so forth, right? Even in such flourishing industry, there is a confusion with respect to job roles. Okay. And which is sadly true. Okay. In India, we are planning, or we are looking at a data science industry to become a 21 trillion, I think, if I'm not wrong, globally. But still, we are not sure what role to take. We are still not sure what is the expectation out of my role. We are still not sure what would be my job responsibilities. It's very sad. And trust me, guys, I'm not over exaggerating. This is sadly true for only Indian market. If you go to any other market, this is not that bad. Okay. And one of the reason why this is so bad in India, because we have a lot of expectations from people. Okay. And second, the way we work, the way our IT industry works is very different than the way it works in other regions. Okay. And as I'm a part of it, so I can, be very blunt about it, but definitely I can't tell you a lot of things, because tomorrow you're going to be part of it and you will know it for sure. But the way we work is very, very different, and that is one of the biggest hurdle in, shaping the world or shaping the data science industry in such a way. Okay. A loose understanding of job roles may cost aspirants their dream job, and that has happened. That has badly happened with a lot of people, right? So you guys, I mean, as an tomorrow's generation, if you guys make this a concept very clear, you can at least tell this to 3 different people, 5 different peoples. You can talk to the HR that you're planning to have a word. They can at least understand it. Okay. So my point is, even if you get some idea clear today, I think I'll win the battle. Okay. Let's talk about some questions. Prasad says, what about the startups? Are they similar? Well, startup is a different story altogether, my friend. When you step into the startup, you will be a multi-hat role. In the morning, you will be a developer. In the afternoon, you will be a tester. In the evening, you will be a data scientist. So that's what you have to do in startup, because trust, I mean, they have a very limited budget. Are you getting my point? They can't hire dedicated testers. They can't hire dedicated data scientists. And I have done that. That's what I'm that came so, natural to me, that it was so immediate, because I have done that part. And every startup does the same thing. Okay. But opportunity for a lot of experience, yes, definitely you will get tons of experience. I started my journey with startup. I always suggest every candidate who want to be a part of data science world, they should start their journey with startup. And I'm very, you can say, positive about it. You should start your journey with startup. In MNC, you will learn, but you'll learn at a slow rate. I mean, if you're put up into client project, definitely you will learn a lot. But if you're in a not a client project, it will take a little longer time for you to come up that curve. Okay. So that's why I say, start with the startup. It's okay. Even if you, I mean, the only disadvantage is you will earn a little less. If MNC gives you a package of X lakhs, the startup will give you maybe X delta lakhs. So we will have to be ready for that. Bangalore is the place for that, guys, if you want to really go into that. Pune is not a place. Try to find up a startup in Bangalore, okay? Not in Pune. Deep says, I think Indian hire HR don't know about the data scientist role and job role in finance. Absolutely right, Dev. I mean, you have picked up a right point. In India, I mean, there is no disrespect for HR. There is nothing against the HR. But the point is they are very less aware of the rules. They are very less aware of the technology, and that's where the gap starts. I'm not saying they are the only part of the problem, but it is one of the area where the problem starts. Okay. I don't even think Gurgaon or Mumbai is the place, guys. I'm really sorry to say that, but the way Bangalore industry works for data science is very different than the way Indian other state works in data science. I have been traveling to Bangalore, I think, very frequently because of my work. We have office there as well, so I frequently travel to Bangalore. But you know, the way Bangalore expects you to work as a data scientist, the amount of work you will get it there, the quality of a work that you will get it there is really amazing, really good. Yes, Prasad, it is the Silicon Valley of India. That's true. Hyderabad, I can bet my money on Hyderabad as well to some extent, because recently Hyderabad has got really good infrastructure. I don't know if people here have been to Hyderabad, but yes, Hyderabad has got good projects nowadays. So you can bet your money on Hyderabad as well. Is LinkedIn the right platform to look for startups in Bangalore or other side? I mean, Dhruv, when it comes to exploration of opportunity, you should never turn any stone untouched. I mean, work on any possible site that you can imagine. Naukri, Indeed, Times Jobs, um, LinkedIn, email, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you think you can use it. But yes, LinkedIn, you will find a lot of jobs. The good part is you can talk to people on LinkedIn, connect to people on LinkedIn, have a casual word with them. Okay. Try to understand the requirement in their company, what is the culture of the company, and then you can move forward. And trust me, people are very helpful on LinkedIn. At least my experience says that. They are very helpful. They'll help you with whatever they can. Okay. So yes, Dhruv, LinkedIn is a good platform. Sanjay, I'm sorry, but Chennai have, I mean, I don't know, not nothing against Chennai, but Chennai have no good quality of work when it comes to data science, right? Chennai has good projects for cloud. Chennai have good projects for development, but not in terms of data science. The hierarchy is, guys, good data science project always goes to Bangalore first. Whatever is left comes to Pune. Whatever is left goes to Chennai. Okay, that's how it works. And I can say this with good amount of confidence for every company. Okay, it's not limited to only Synchron, but it is generally the way it is. Okay. All right, let's be back to the discussions. So what is the roles and skill set? Okay. In today's session, we will be quickly discussing about the different roles. Okay. Like data analyst, business analyst, data engineer, data scientist, and other roles. We are not just going to talk about it, but we are going to talk about the purpose of each role, why do they exist, and what are the skill sets that are required for these jobs. Okay. So I think this is Shalini you are asking, right? So different job roles, different skill sets that are required, and different expectations that you might have. Okay. So let's start with the data analyst. Okay. Let me, okay. I'm sorry. Data analyst. In a general term, it is also called as data detective. Okay. I'm sure with name you might have understood. Data detective simply means they are the ones who try and understand the historical data. Mark my words very carefully. They are the ones who explore the data in the past. They explore the historical data for you. That's why they are called detective. Okay. So the role is pretty much collect, process, perform statistical data analysis. Okay. So they are primarily involved into some of the data collection process, but they majorly involve into a statistical data analysis. So they have all the historical data in the world. They will sit on it and they'll try to explore the data in any possible direction. Okay. The languages that you should know is R, Python, HTML, JavaScript, C++, SQL. Now, I'm not very much sure why do you need to learn C++, but you can skip it. Okay. Basically, you need to know Python, of course, very surely. Why you need to know HTML and JavaScript is because sometimes you need to scrap the data from website. Okay. All the time, we are not lucky to get the data readily available. So we need to scrap it from different sources. So when you need to scrap it from any website, you need to know the HTML tags, you need to know the JavaScript tags as well. Why you need to know SQL? Well, SQL everybody should know, I think, because that is the core data structure. That is where we store the data, right? So you should really know the data structure, the database technologies. Okay. What are the skills and the talents you need? Spreadsheet tools, Excel. I mean, again, like everyone should know SQL, everyone should know Excel. That's what the requirement is. I mean, period. There should not be any discussion on it. Okay, these two things you should know very well, SQL and Excel. You should know some of the database like NoSQL as well. Recently, I mean, last 4 years, NoSQL database have picked up really well in the industry because variety of reasons. Of course, I'm not going to go into detail of it, but database like MongoDB, database like HBase, they have picked up very well in the industry. So you should really know what is NoSQL database, how does that work, how can you access it, how can you store the data inside it, and all that stuff. Okay. Again, communication and visualization. Communication again being the very common element in all the roles, right? Why visualization? Because as you say that data analyst will do a statistical study, statistical analysis, you need to you need to tell your story, right? You need to present your analysis to somebody, especially your stakeholders. Then how would you present it? The one important way is visualization. So data analyst should also know some of the tools like Power BI. They should know ClickSense. They should know Tableau, because those are the tools where you do a lot of visualizations. Okay. You might ask, why can I do it in Python? Because yes, Python visualization is there, but it's not as matured as Tableau or Power BI, right? So you need to know these tools as well. Well, anyone is good, Balaji, I'm sorry, but I think it based on the company. I mean, some of them use Tableau, some of them use Power BI. So it depends what they use. But what my point is, even if you know one, it's okay, because the rest others are, I think, more or less similar. So Tableau and Click or Tableau or Power BI has no major differences. They're more or less similar. It's okay even if you know one of them. Okay. You know some, I mean, you need to have some flavor of maths, stats, and machine learning. I mean, of course, machine learning is not the ideal, or you can say mandatory skill set the data analyst should have. But of course, if you plan to, you can say, roll up your role, or if you want to promote yourself to the next challenge, then you should have some knowledge of machine learning as well. Because ideally, you're going to do a lot of statistical analysis. You're going to do a lot of data analytics. Okay. So if you know some flavor of machine learning, it's good to have it. If you don't have it, it's okay. It's not going to be mandatory education. But yes, tomorrow, if you want to switch yourself from data analyst to maybe data scientist, then you should know it. Okay. And your mindset should be data junkie with high figure out quotient. Okay. So basically, you have tons of transactional data, and you want to analyze why some transactions are happening in such a way, why such transactions are not going through, why such transactions are always keeps on failing. So these things you need to figure out in your data. Kriti says, when everything is automized through Python, why math stat is so crucial in data science? Okay, well, that's a good question in a way, but I think it is also a fundamental question. I agree that everything is automized. Okay, I agree everything is implemented in libraries such as scikit-learn, TensorFlow, Keras. I think this is what you're asking, right? Kriti? Okay. So I agree with your point that everything is automized, like scikit-learn and everything of that part. But I'll ask you two simple questions if you can ask me. Or sorry, if you can answer me. One, if I give you 100 different options from scikit-learn, how would you know which one to choose? Tell me. Scikit-learn is so big that it has 100 or more than 100 options when it comes to algorithms or when it comes to different operations on data. Tell me, how would you choose which one to apply?
Well, actually, we do some kind of basic training on this. So, my question was like, I mean, most of the tools are available in the Python and all the, you know, kits. So, why it is so? I mean, always, I mean, specifically told that stats is so important. Even if we study the basics, so is it possible that we can, get the good chance in DS?
Of course, I mean, if you are, that's what I'm saying. See, if you, in the beginning only I said it, right? You're not expected to be a PhD in mathematics. Okay. Even if you have a basic knowledge, that's more than enough. The reason why you need to know, I'll tell you the reason now. Yes, scikit-learn and other libraries have implemented everything for you as an automated, but how would you interpret it? It will give you some results, right? It will throw you some numbers, but you need to be smart enough. You need to know how are you going to interpret it, isn't it? To interpret those results, you need to know some of the basics of mathematics. Is that right? In order for you to choose which algorithm, I would go into detail. Like, should I use logistic regression? Should I use random forest? Should I use decision tree? That decision will come when you know how this algorithm works internally, isn't it? Now, how this algorithm works internally requires for you to know how mathematics works behind it. Is that point clear? That's why it is expected that you should know basics of stats, basics of maths, so that you can actually understand what is happening inside the algorithm. If you know what is happening inside the algorithm, you can choose the correct algorithm for your data set. Because yes, there are hundreds of algorithms available. Can I use all of them? No, I cannot. I have to possibly choose the one which is best for me. Okay. I hope that answers your question. All right, so let's talk about the work and skills of data analyst that we have been talking about. Data analysts take a technical role in developing, implementing, and maintaining the analytical systems. Okay. Nowhere in this definition you find a word of predictive or machine learning or anything like that. Is that clear? Their only responsibility is to develop, implement, and maintain the existing analytical systems. Data analysts take a technical role in, okay, I think there's the same point repeated. They need to create and maintain a rich interactive visualizations through data interpretation and analysis, integrating various reporting components. So as I said in the beginning, you have to, as a data analyst, you will work with a lot of data visualization tools, such as Power BI, Tableau, or ClickSense. You will have to create and maintain those dashboards all the time, so that whatever study, whatever analysis that you have done, you can represent it in a more effective manner. Okay. You will primarily work very closely with reporting tools or reporting components. The skills, again, the same repetitive part. You need to know the database systems, because you don't know in which system your data would be stored. It can be RDBMS, it can be any other thing. You definitely need to know the spreadsheets like Excel. Machine learning, as I said, a flavor of it is a good to know. Visualization, you really need to know how to plot different plots, how to use different plots, what all different plot means, how do you interpret different plots, and so forth. And lastly, very important part is communication. I mean, of course, if you don't know how to communicate it, all of other things will go in a waste. So that is what we have in a data analytics or data analyst or business analyst as a part. Now let's start talk about data engineer in some way. This is one of the interesting ones. Okay. Data engineers are called software engineers by trade. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the role. They develop, they construct, they test, and maintain the architectures, okay, such as the database and the large scale processing systems. Basically, the role of data engineer is to collect the data, maintain the data, and efficiently store the data from multiple sources. Okay. So they are primarily involved in ETL process, extract, transform, and the load. Okay. So what they do is they generally connect to a lot of different data sources like RDBMS, the websites, the scrapping part, the third party systems like Google APIs, and they get the data under one source. They get the data under one roof. Okay. Their job is to maintain this architecture overall. That how do you automatically get the data for a longer amount of time from these sources. Okay. So the skills that they need is again, because they are involved with storing the data, they are involved with working with data, they need to know the database systems by default, SQL and non-SQL. They need to know the data modeling and ETL tools. That is very important. Because let's say if I ask you that, you need to scrap this website. Now, as a data engineer, you will first analyze what is the structure of the website, what are the tools and the tags that people have used it. Then you need to come up with a model that how are you going to store this data into database. Now here model is not the predictive model. Okay, don't confuse. Here model is how are you going to store this into database. That is what we call as a data modeling. Okay, and lastly ETL tools. So ETL tools will help you automate this data generation and data extraction part. Okay, because data engineers in the larger organizations deal with a lot of data, the size is very huge. They need to be also aware of data warehousing solutions. Okay, data warehouse is a very broader terminology, a very broader concept where you store all your historical data. Okay, maybe last 20 years data, last 25 years data, and so forth. All those historical data you store in data warehouse. Okay, so as a data engineer, you should know what is data warehouse, how the data warehouse generally works, what are the different types of data warehouse, right? Some of the languages that you should really know is SQL, Hive, Pig. What is Hive, Pig? Hive, Pigs are the components of a big data solution. Okay, you need to know SAS, SPSS, Python, Java, Ruby, and other things. These are all majorly part of big data ecosystem. So these are all part of Hadoop ecosystem basically. Okay. ETL simply stands for extract, transform, and load. Okay, that's the full form of ETL. Now, if I talk about ETL tools, there are many different tools that falls under ETL. Okay, some of them are, I think, few names I can take is there is a tool called Informatica. Okay, so Informatica is a tool. Talent is a tool. Thank you, Prakash, for that. So Informatica, Talent, those are the very prominent tools that comes under ETL. Basically, what is ETL tools does is, yeah, Penhato is also one of them, Pentaho, right? What they do is they allow you to connect to any third-party source as a data. They allow you to do a lot of data transformation methodologies, right? And then they allow you to store this transformed data into one of your data warehouse. Okay, that's what the ETL generally does. Is it mandatory that we should have knowledge of languages? Well, it's not mandatory. Okay, it's not mandatory, but at least a few of them you should know it very well, like Python, Java, Perl, because data engineers generally does this architecture stuff. So many times they deal with Unix system. So they need to know these languages as well. But more or less, yes, you need to know the big data as well. So SQL, Hive, Pig, Scoop, these things you should know it. Yeah, that's for sure. So data engineers closely work with data science team and they are largely in charge of designing the solutions for data scientists that enables them to do their job. Now, well, why I say that they work very closely with data science team is data science team will consume or will take the data that data engineer team will store. Is that clear? So data engineer team will collect the data and they will store it, right? They will store somewhere. So data science team will now need to work with that stored data, correct? So that's why they work very closely with data science team to make sure what is the format that data needs to be stored, what is the architecture in which data needs to be stored, and so forth. Okay. The data engineer creates an optimal pipeline architecture. Okay. They assemble the large complex data set for business needs. Well, obviously, as I said, they generally create the pipelines. These pipelines are automated pipelines so that automatically the data gets scrapped, automatically data gets collected, automatically data gets processed. Okay. They build the infrastructure required for optimal extraction, transformation, and loading of data for a wide variety of data sources. Okay. So basically, they need to think whether they should create a data lake, they should create a distributed data storage, they should create maybe only RDBMS to store this data, right? So they need to come up with this infrastructure where this large amount of data that they have collected from different sources can store it. Okay. The engineer also developed tools to extract useful insights into customer acquisition, and above all, they strive for greater functionality in the data systems. So as I said, they work very closely with data science team. Okay. So they can come up with scripts, they can come up with utilities that helps data science team to generate some insights very easily. Okay. Because data resides in maybe data warehouse where Python scripts does not work, for example. So let's say you want to do a data consolidation on the data storage level itself. So you ask your data engineering team to, write some scripts, create the data consolidation and send it to Python as a, send it to data science team. So they work in this tandem. Okay. That's why I said, you can create a lot of tools and utilities for data science team. Amit says there are less resources to learn data engineering. Can you share any resources you have to know? Well, Amit, I can share. So, I mean, if you can give me some time, I can definitely work around some resource and I can share it. No problem. Sharini says, do data engineering manage the data lakes? Yes, to some extent, yes, they do manage it. There are different teams though, but yes, they have a role to play inside it. Most of the time, DBS serve as a data engineer. Well, I cannot generalize it, Madhukar. We cannot generalize that DBS can work as data engineers because nowadays we have a different roles as a data engineers and different roles as a DBA. The role of DBA is to manage the database itself. That's it. They don't do any other stuff. They just manage the users. They just manage the space. They just manage the admin part of it. Okay. But data engineers does far more different stuff, far more better stuff. Okay. Now comes to the interesting part of data scientist. Okay. So I'm sure many of you know it, what does data scientists do, but let's try to do it. The role is cleans, massage, and organize the big data. I think some part of it is true, some part of it is not true. What if you ask me personally what data scientists do is, data scientists generally what data scientists generally does is they solve the problem. That's what they do. All right. And that's what you should keep in your mind as an attitude. Okay. What does a data scientist do? It solves the problem. How they solve the problem? Using the data that they have available with them. They create some data by their own methodologies, and then they apply the knowledge they have about statistics, machine learning, deep neural networks. They apply, they marry this concept of machine learning, concept of statistics, concepts of algorithm, with the concept of domain and with the concept of data, when they marry all these three together, they generate the solutions. Okay, that's what the data scientists generally do. Now, if you ask me what is the skill set they should know, there is no, you can say, hard written rule what all data scientists should know. There are a variety of different things that they should know, starting from programming to people management, to communication, to visualization, to storytelling. Are you getting my point? To presentations, to giving demos. These all things a data scientist should know, because they are in charge of solving any business problem. Okay, and if they are in charge, they do various complex stuff. With experience of last 10 years, I can say one thing for sure: every project is very different in their nature. Okay, every project has their own pros, own cons. Every project have their own characteristics. Okay, you cannot possibly learn from any book. Yeah, you can get some idea, you can get some insight, but every project is very different in their own nature. All right, so you should know different things. You should know different technologies. Python is definitely the one. Statistics, machine learning algorithms are the one. The different tools, if you know, it is better. If you know cloud, is again better. The one thing I think I can give you as a secret ingredient that will help you to be a good data scientist for a long amount of time is, the attitude of learning all the time. Okay, you should learn every single moment you are living. Okay, because there is so many things to learn in data science. Even I do not know full stuff. I do not know everything. Okay, so every day you will learn something or the other new. If you look at it, the pace at which new innovations are happening in the data science or AI world, you possibly cannot know everything, and that's the limitation we have. Is that right? Does everybody agree here with this point? The pace at which the innovations are happening, you possibly cannot get hold on it, right? So you have to be always ready to learn something new. You always have to be learning. You have to keep reading, you have to keep exploring, keep engrossed yourself by some of the other courses. Okay, no matter what it is, but do some courses. The skills, the talents that, as I said, yet you need to know predictive modeling. That is one thing for sure. You need to know programming language. You need to know maths. You need to know stats. You need to know programming. You need to know machine learning algorithms. If you are, want to scale yourself to the senior data scientist or some other role, you need to know deep neural networks. You need to know artificial intelligence concepts. You need to know computer vision. You need to know NLP, right? You definitely need to know the people management. Another important concept. One definitely should know how to communicate the stories. So communication becomes really important ingredient. Okay. Dhruv says, does big firms like Google, Microsoft still take DS with masters, PhD, or they also take people with hands-on work experience? Well, Dhruv, you will be very happy to know. And that's why I said, go to Google or go to, any website and try to look at their job descriptions. Google's, Microsoft, anyone does not mention educational qualification background. Okay. So they do not mention educational qualification requirement. Never do that. No big companies will ever do that. If you go to Google, if you go to Microsoft, if you go to Apple, they do not require you to have any formal education. They're okay with it. Have you know that, Dhruv, or everyone else? Right. Go and check that. You will be very happy to know that, by the way. They will never specify that you should be masters. They will never specify you should be PhD holder. They will never specify you should be blah 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 degree holder. If you crack their interview, if you have relevant experience, you are absolutely free to go anywhere you need. That's how these big companies work. Okay. And if you think any part of this is not true, You can go to Google website, go to the career section and pick up any job description. I'm not saying only data scientist. Pick up any job description if you like and just read it and you will realize what I'm saying. Okay. What are the work and skills of data scientists? Well, they understand the challenge, they understand the problem, and they discuss it with the stakeholders regarding the same. Well, one of the things that I do is, if you talk to business, if you talk to companies, they will have thousands of problems like everybody else. Okay. You really need to have a skills to drill down to one specific problem that you want to solve. Okay. So you need to have a capability to drill down to the specific problem. Okay. The next task is to convert the defined business problem into a data science problem. As I said, you need to have a skill to drill down the problem that you want to solve. That also involves one thing for sure is, can this problem be solved using data science terminologies, right? Because when I say data science problem, you need to have sufficient data for that. You need to have at least a data for it. First of all, you need to have, different data in place before you say that this is a data science problem. You need to have a framework by which you can confidently say or confidently evaluate the progress of this problem. That's why you need to identify this first. Finally, the data scientist would provide the organization with best solution to the underlying problem. Well, I can't say they always provide best solution, but yes, they try their best to give you the most efficient solution, all right, to the business problem. It is very important for a data scientist to ask the right questions, right processes, clean the data, and perform the EDA, that is exploratory data analysis. Okay. So there is one thing I follow as a principle. So whenever I talk to any client, whenever I talk to any CEO or CTO about the problem statement, I always follow a framework of asking 3 why statements or why question. So first I might ask, what is the business problem that they want to solve? So they will come up with some 3-4 different problem statements. And then I start my why framework. First why, you need to ask, why do you want to solve this problem? Second, you need to ask why solving this problem is important for you, or what is going to impact your business, right? And based on the first 2 answers, you choose your third why. If somebody is able to answer your 3 why, then it is pretty much clear that they're sure that they want to work on this. If anyone who cannot answer 3 whys, then it is pretty much difficult to say if they're serious about it, and it works in the real life as well. So try this, you will be happy to know that. As a data scientist, as I said, you need to have a capability to ask the right question at the right time to the right person. Don't go and ask everything to everyone, because you should know who can answer your questions. Okay. Builds multiple machine learning model based on the objectives and the minimum possible error rate. Well, of course, this is the task that they do for bread and butter. We create tons of different models for one simple problem statement. We compare them, we analyze the comparison, we analyze the performance of different models, and then make a selection of one of them. Okay. You need to have a domain understanding, which is very correct. And I don't push very much on the domain, because it's okay. You can learn domain in very quick time. That's okay. You need to be very good in storytelling. That's what I have been keep on telling, right? You have to be very good in storytelling. Yes, you should be very good in ML, DL, predictive modeling. You should be good at it. You should know different algorithms. You should know how those algorithm works. You should know different hyperparameters on those algorithms. You should know how to interpret those different hyperparameters and the results that this algorithm generates. Okay. What is exactly meant by storytelling? The one thing that I'm doing right now, Dhruv, the thing that I'm doing right now. Well, yes, I'm kidding. What do I mean by storytelling is, you will get a data, right? You will do a lot of data analysis. You will come with a lot of graph. You will come up with a lot of visualizations. You will come up with basically a findings, right? Does that make sense? You will come up with a lot of findings, right? Now, how do you communicate this finding? Will you create one PDF and send it to all stakeholders and you just tell them, okay, read this PDF and understand by your own? Will you do that? Then what will you do? You will create nice PPT, you will create a nice demo, and you will step by step progressively make your audience comfortable with the findings that you have found. Is that correct? That is exactly what we mean by storytelling. You should be able to find a story inside the data that you have got, and you should narrate it in a most simplistic fashion to your stakeholders. Does that make sense? Is masters a way to cement your image as a data scientist in a top role, or experience can make you that? Well, Manpreet, I believe more on experience. But yeah, degree you will need it for different purposes, right? Degree you need it for different characteristics. But even if you showcase the experience, it should be good. No problem with that. Data and analytics manager. Well, again, I'm not very high demand role, I would say. Manages a team of analysts and data scientists. Okay. So you need to manage different people with this skill set. You should be, I think, as a manager, you should be very optimistic because your team will always come up with the limitations, the problems that they face. Okay? Something like they can tell you, oh, my data is in such a bad format, I cannot work with this data. Or they'll come up saying that, oh, my data is having so many missing values, what should I do? Right? I'm getting my point. So you need to be very optimistic. You need to be with full of solutions. You need to have full of options. Okay. Because if you have that, you can easily go and, help your subordinates, help your team members to, go and do different things. Try this thing, try that thing, try this thing. If things doesn't work. Of course, as a manager, you should be very good with people management. I'm not going to go into detail of it, but you need to handle your people very well. You need to have a good relationship with your teams as well as your client, because you might be the face, your face of the company to a lot of people. So you need to be very much, you can say, gentleman in terms of what you say, when you say it, to whom you are saying it. You should be, polite when it is required. You should be aggressive when it is required, right? So you need to maintain that balance as a manager. Okay. You might ask, will I learn it overnight? No, you cannot. There are tons of different types of managers you will come across in your life, but you should be one of your own. Don't try to be the one who is like, you're following. Take good parts for them. Right? I mean, if they're good in something, take that part, but try to become of your own. Okay. Because if you are own as a own manager, I mean, you will add a lot of things to the table. You will add a lot of values for your company. The data and analytics manager assumes the role of assigning duties, right? And operations to the data science team. So they do the task management, they do the task assignment job. He leads the cross functional projects having, you can say, the heavy requirements of data. So I do one thing which I didn't mention previously, is cross functional management. So what I mean by cross functional is you need to have a, communication. You need to have a coordination between different teams, like the server team, the backend team, the UI team, the UX team, right? Different teams you need to work with. So that cross-functional things you need to have it. The manager designs the technical process and supporting business issues. So as a manager, you design the framework, you design the culture. You set up the example that how do you want your company to work? How do you want your team to work? Right? That's what you do. Above all of this, he is responsible for the accuracy of the reports generated, as they will be used to the various level. Of course, your team will generate a lot of results. Your team will generate a lot of reports. Before these reports are published to the larger audience, it has to be validated by yourself. You need to validate the authenticity of it. You need to validate the accuracy of it. I also do one thing, which is a hiring. So as analytic manager, you look into hiring and training requirement of data team. So we take interviews, we take assessments, we take different roles in the hiring part. So you also need to do that as a manager. There are other roles which are very less in frequency, the statisticians. The name itself is a self-explanatory, right? The statistician is someone who has a sound understanding of entire statistics. So these are those people like PhD in statistics. Okay, they do not know anything else. Okay, they only know statistics. I'm very sorry to say this kind of language, but this is very true. The statisticians only know statistics. They doesn't know anything else. So they are responsible for creating the data-driven surveys and opinion polls. They will help you understand the data. That's it. The database administrator, the DBA that somebody was having conversation about, right? Well, DBA is a very traditional role. Okay, it is in the, I think it is in the industry from a very long time. So we monitor, so he monitors basically the database usage, the roles, the users, the memory space, right? What is the security, what is the access management and all that stuff. They have nothing to do with any part of data story, or they have nothing to do with anything in predictive part. Okay. Then you have a data architect, which is more or less, you can say, replica of data engineers. Okay. The role of data architect is to integrate, centralize, protect, and maintain the data sources of an organization. So as I said, they have a very overlap requirement with the data engineers. Okay, so I think data engineers going forward in the future becomes the data architect. Okay, you might be needed to execute multiple roles, especially in the startup environment. I think this is what I said, right? You will be a multi-hat role if you are in a startup. In the morning, you are data engineer. In the night, you will be data scientist. So be prepared for it. And I think that is the way you will learn a lot of things. Okay, you will get a lot of confidence if you are in that part. Okay, I think this way, within the time, I have reached to the point where I am now opening up for a question and answer. I hope the session was helpful. You learned at least something new, good part. The morning was not waste. I know Sunday morning is really special. So
can you please recapitulate right from the beginning, the session? I missed the earlier part. Just a summary from the beginning.
Okay, you need to. You want me to summarize the entire session?
Can you please repeat the summary from the beginning? Yeah.
Okay, I will try my best. I don't know how much I can cover.
Yeah, in a very short time. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, the session was all about the different roles into the data science industry. Okay. So the session we started with myself, like how I got into the industry of data science. Okay. How the journey of data science for me started beginning. What are the educational backgrounds do I have? What are the experience background do I have, and so forth. So I tried to map it up to the general world, where what is the education that you should have, what is the programming background you should have, what is the technical background you should have to become part of the data business. Okay, to part of the data business team. Okay. Then we started with the actual different roles that we have in the industry, like data analyst, data scientist, data engineer, statisticians. Then you have a data architect. We tried to talk about the different technology requirement or different technical requirement that these people should have. We talked about the different roles, the different responsibilities that these guys play. Okay. So I think this was all overall, we had a discussion. And I think this session is also recorded. So I think you can have a quick look if you want to have it.
Okay, great question. Now my question is basically how basically the hierarchy appears into a data science. How many people generally work in a data science team in normal organizations? Not the organizations which give service, data science as a service, but in a company in which data science is one of the internal things.
Well, I mean, as you might have answered your own question, that primarily depends upon what is the size of the company. Okay. If I am looking at a scale of Google or Microsoft, then of course the size would be very much different. But I can talk about my company for sure. Okay. We primarily have a team of 25 odd people. Okay.
Yeah.
Who have a different roles to play. Some of them are data scientists, some of them are data analytics, some of them are data engineers. Okay. So these are the structures we have. There is a senior data scientist, all right, or you can say a chief data scientist in the company who is responsible for organization-wise strategies of the data science world. Okay. Then you have a senior data scientist placed into every different geographical location. Like I am a head of Pune location. Somebody else is a head of Bangalore location. Are you getting my point? So then you have a center heads, and then you have different teams. So this is generally the architecture. This is generally the structure you will follow everywhere.
Okay. And do you have some sort of a industry, group, industry focused groups? For example, pharma related or something where people have domain knowledge as well as the specialization about the application of data science in that domain.
On LinkedIn, you will find it for sure. On LinkedIn, there are various groups you have. So you can definitely go and find it there.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I have a question. Thanks for the wonderful session. The question is, I see a lot of opening in for the role of data science consultant, and don't know exactly what they exactly do in different consulting organization. What do they do, and is it different from data scientist?
Okay, so correct me if I got your question wrong. So you're asking who is data science consultant? Is that right?
Yes, yes. Who is a data science consultant?
Okay. Now, data science consultant and data scientist is one and the same thing. Okay. There's absolutely no difference. Now, let me give you why this terminology was invented. Why something called as data science consultant was invented, first of all. One thing, this data science consultants are the people who are a freelancer data scientist. Okay. They are not associated with any company. Are you getting my point? They are a freelancer. They pick up a project from any freelancing or any I don't know if you have heard something called as Upwork. Have you heard Upwork?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So Upwork is a community where you can post, I mean, companies post their work and freelancer people pick up that work and they work on it. Is that right? So that's where the data scientist people consider themselves as a data science consultant, because they're consulting you on your data science work. Okay. If you go towards Western market or if you go towards the APAC market, if you leave India aside, there you do not have a permanent roles. Okay, there you do not have a permanent roles. There you have a consultant roles. So there everything is consultant. So you will have a UI manager consultant. There you will have a UX consultant. There you will have a business domain consultant. And similarly, you will have a data science consultant. So what they will do is they will work on a project for a specific duration. Then they'll go out. Their contract will end. Are you getting my point? But if you ask me work-wise, they're no different than a data scientist. They do the same thing, absolutely same thing. I hope.
Yeah, thank you. Got it. Thanks.
Any more questions, guys? Quick question. I think we have already overrun by 9 minutes. But yeah, we can have 5 more minutes if you guys want.
Thank you, Puneet. It was a very nice session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Manpreet, for your kind words. Thank you, Chetan. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Chetan. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Ravish. All right, guys, if there are no more questions, then we can officially close the session. Please fill up the feedback, guys. It will help me improve myself. So please do not forget to fill up the feedback sheet. If you have any questions, I have pasted my LinkedIn profile. I'm again pasting it one more time. If anybody has any questions or if I have failed to answer anybody's questions here, please ping me there. I can try to answer any questions if you guys have. Okay. Once again, thank you everyone for joining on Sunday morning. Please take care. Have a good day. Bye bye.